This tutorial is for assignment 9, where we write a script to do some port scanning and then also use Nmap to do the same. So we're back in Kali Linux, and I have a little some notes up. And in order to make sure we don't do anything unethical or illegal, we want to use an IP address that's meant for this type of exploration or testing. And so nmap.org provides us with an IP address that has ports that are open so that we can test with it and practice port sniffing. Okay, so this right here is some information on that. We'll be using this IP address, which again is for nmap.org, it shows us which ports are already opened. So it's in our notes, we'll know this. Okay, the first thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and open up a terminal here. So since I'm already here, I don't have to worry about changing the directory to the desktop Kali_work. We're already there. All right, so also we're going to write, I wrote two of them. This is the first one that I wrote, and we'll open this up with the idle. And easier to just talk about it. So let me see if I can turn on the number lines. All right, so line 1, what that's saying is that we're going to import the socket attributes or library so that we can use some of these methods that it has. And as usual, we have the function right here, which is going to be called port_scan. And line 17 is going to be our point of entry. So the compiler knows where we're starting this code when we run it. And clearly we're going to be starting at the port scan. The first thing that happens on line 4 is we're going to declare our variables. So we have target, start port, and end port. These are going to prompt the user to enter the IP address for what we're going to scan, and then the beginning port and the end port. Next, if we were going to do the host name, which we're not, we would use this. Following these variables being declared and initialized, we have a nice little for loop. And so in the for loop, we're going to look at the ports that are in the range of start port and end port. So if for example, I'm going to enter 10, and I think I'm going to finish with 50, or actually 100. So we'll go 10 to 100. And it's going to scan all the ports starting from 10 and going through 100. We have to add 1 because otherwise it'll stop at 99. I want to go all the way through 100. And then we're going to use the with reserved keyword in Python. If we use with, we don't have to worry about closing the socket. It'll close it when it's done, so not an issue. So we use with, and we're going to use the socket. And this part here just means that we're going to be using the IV4 protocol, Internet 4 protocol, and that we're going to look at the stream. Okay, so and all that's going to be declared as a variable s. Okay, so the next thing is we're going down here on line 14. We have a nice little if statement. We connect, and what we're doing is we're connecting to the IP that we've entered here, and we're going to say, okay, now let's take a look at the target IP, so the IP that we entered, and the port. So one port at a time. So if we start at port 10, it'll be port 10, and then 11, and so forth up as it increments through the loop until it hits 100. At any point, if the port is the same as 0, then that port is open. Now, if it's any other value, and we could get an error message, we could get some other number, then that means the port is not open. And so if the port, once we hit the target IP and hit the port, and that port returns a 0, then it's open. So we're going to go ahead and print open, and we're done. But then we'll continue with the loop to find out what other ports are open until we've gone through the whole range. Once we hit 100, the loop stops and we're done. So that's really it. It's pretty simple. Declare variables, set up our target IP address, and then roll through as we iterate through each one of the ports. Okay, so to run it is pretty simple. All we're going to do is use Python 3, and we're going to type in the port_scan, which is the name of the excuse me, the name of the Python script that we just wrote, and we're going to say run it. It's going to ask for the IP address, and remember we're going to use this one right here for nmap. So we'll go ahead and type that in, 45.33.32.156. Enter. Wants to know the starting port. I'm going to start at 10, and I'm going to just go through 100. I'm not going to go through all of them. And so now you can see it already immediately found port 22 is open, and it's just iterating right now through the ports. It'll hit port 80 pretty soon. We know port 80 is open because it's in the documentation right here, so 80 should come up next. Oh, and I must have hit something that stopped it. But port 80 should have come up, and then these other ports too. But we can run it again. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to go 10, and this time import, I'll just do 200. Oops, I messed that up, didn't I? I did. Okay, well, I'm going to redo this anyways because that was terrible. 22. Hopefully it catches 80. I'm pretty sure 80 is supposed to be open, what the documentation says anyways. I'll pause the video. Okay, so it did not find port 80, and maybe port 80 is not open right now. I'm not sure. But right now, going through port 10 through 200, 22 is open. Looks like nothing else is. But again, I didn't run it through the whole thing, so I think I'll run it one more time and run through one of these higher numbers and see what happens. Alright, so I ran nmap against it, and the command for nmap is right here. When you run nmap, you type in nmap and then pn. Now the pn just means that you want a passive a look at it. You don't want to ping it, so it means ping no. And then you're going to type in the same IP address, and it's going to return. And this also right here just means to return the values. So we enter the IP, hit enter, run it. Took a little bit of time to run it. It's usually pretty fast. Anyways, it found 22 open, and it also found 80 open. And so a little bit different than the port scan that I was testing. But one of the reasons that you can test the port scan instead of using nmap is because some nmap will have signatures or certain descriptions that in its the way that it operates, or sniffs, that an IDS or a security protocol on the network that you're attacking will recognize. And so if you create your own port scan, then it's unlikely that that's going to be detected, and so you're more likely to actually move around and detect it as you passively look for these scans, these open ports. But I'll take another look at this and see if I can tighten up the code to see what else is going on there. Okay, so I reran this using the second version of the port scanner, which is looks like this, and this one does a little bit more intricate work than the other one does. Here I'm going to use multiple threads to do some multi-processing, and this helps if you're running a lot of ports, and you want to check all the different ports quicker. For example, the last one we're only using one processor thread. With this one, I'm going to use as many as I've allowed the virtual machine to have, so that I can do multi-processing. The last piece of code that I showed you didn't have this, so this is a little bit extra. And this one did find the 22 and the 80 that were open right here. And you can see right here the command Python 3 port scan version 2, and it found the same one. So 22 and 80. I only went up to 100 on the scan because this will take too long to run through all of those ports. Anyways, as you can see, they work the same as far as what they're going to do. The difference is the reason why would you do this instead of just running an nmap like we did up here, and that's because right here on this line, that's because although nmap is very powerful and you might want to use it in most situations, sometimes you might want to automate some code and do some testing of ports or servers and have it part of a larger program. So you could embed this program, it's just Python, into a larger program that could handle that for you. Or you may want to be stealthier and run a much lower risk of being detected as you examine these ports. And so a Python script will do that for you. Anyways, that's all. Pretty simple.